Hey everyone, it's AJ and welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, my sister Sarah and I make content about journaling, stationery, and running our art shop. We're also 4 months into running our mail club, Loose Leaf Letters, where we send monthly snail mail to people all over the world. Here's what will be included in July's upcoming letter, which is themed around the halfway mark of the year, reflecting back on the first 6 months, and setting goals for the remainder of the year. If you'd like to join our mail club, the link is in the description box below. So for today's video, I wanted to talk about some of my favorite journaling essentials. If you've been curious about journaling and thinking about getting started, but you're not really sure how, the goal of this video is to give you inspiration for the type of journaling that you might want to do and different stationery to try out so you can find your own style of journaling. I've been journaling on and off for the past several years, and I've come to know what tools I like to use when I want to sit down and journal, and so I wanted to share some of those favorite items with you. I'll also be including some extra non-essentials as well for anyone who's looking to expand upon their current collection of tools as well. So to start, I'll be talking through some of the journals that I use, which will hopefully give you a sense of the type of journals that you would like to use in terms of the form factor and the size of the pages. Then I'll go through some of the pens that I like to use in my journals, and then once we're done with those basics, I'll dive into some of my favorite essentials or tools that I like to use when I'm journaling, and then we'll end it off with the section of non-essentials. So let's get started. Okay, so to get started, I wanted to go over some general journaling styles to give you guys an idea of how each one is structured, and then I'll go into some of the journals and pens that I use. Just a heads up that this list isn't exhaustive of all of the types of journaling, just because there are just so many different types and mixes and styles of journaling, and so we'll just go through the typical general types. Starting off with the most common, which is reflective journaling, which is where you're recounting memories, talking about emotions, your mood, or your thoughts. Within this section, there is daily journaling, where you're writing about your day, thoughts that you had, conversations, memories, etc. And it's really good for emotional processing, memory keeping, and just to slow down mentally and to look back on your day. There is stream of consciousness journaling, which is also called morning pages, where the goal is to essentially have an unfiltered brain dump without editing your thoughts as you put it down on paper. It's good for when you're maybe feeling anxious or overthinking to clear your mind of mental clutter or getting through creative blocks. Third is gratitude journaling, where you write about things that you're grateful for each day. This can be as simple as just listing them all down as bullet points or writing more detailed reflections for a larger idea. So those are the most common or reflective types of journaling that deals with emotions. And then we have creative journaling, which is about artistic expression, memory keeping, stories, poems, etc. Starting off with an art journal or sketchbook where you do all sorts of things from painting, collage, sketching, pasting ephemera. It's meant for messy experimentation. Then you have junk journaling, where it's all about collecting scraps like receipts, tickets, packaging, special paper that you come across, magazine clippings, etc. And you make a fun spread for a trip or a memory that you had. Similarly to this is scrapbook journaling, which is very photo heavy and all about memory keeping. Another popular one is media journaling, where you write about things that you've read or watched or played, and you give ratings and reviews and reflect back on your experiences with them. Then we have commonplacing, which is a collection of quotes, ideas, or references from external sources like books, articles, or conversations into one centralized place. So that all embodies creative journaling. And then lastly, we have journaling that is centered solely on planning and productivity. In this section, we have a bunch of different styles of planning. We have bullet journaling, which is very, very popular, which uses a flexible system of trackers, calendars, and custom layouts. And it's a style of planning that combines elements of planning with journaling and memory keeping. Then we have daily planning, where you're structuring your days and breaking down your tasks, priorities, and routines. And then we have a higher level overview with weekly planning, where you plan out the important events of your week. And from there, we also have monthly and yearly planning as well. Then we have goal planning, which is focused on short and long-term goals, milestones, and the progress towards them. Habit tracking, which tracks how much water you're drinking, how much sleep you're getting, exercise, your mood, or how often you're doing your hobbies. And then we have project planning, which breaks down your projects into chunks where you can figure out the timelines, how you want to break down your tasks, a place to have a brainstorm, or just to log your progress. So that is a very broad overview of the more popular types of journaling and planning, but there are so many more like dream journaling, food journaling, fitness journaling, finance journaling, spiritual journaling, the list goes on and on. So this is just to give you an idea of all the different types of journaling that you could see yourself getting into. If it's something more emotional like reflective journaling, or creative journaling where you can really express yourself in different mediums and different ways, or if you're more of a planner and you really like having an organized view of your day or your week or your month, there should be something for everyone out there to try when it comes to journaling. And so yeah, I hope that serves as a source of inspiration for anyone watching and thinking about getting into journaling. Alright, so now that we have an overview of the different types of journaling, now I'll be going through some of the different journals that I have here, as well as some of the pens that I like using in them. So starting off with a journal that I pretty much use every day, which is this one on the side here. This journal is one that I got from the Me Plus team pretty recently, and I did a video about unboxing this one as well as the personal sized one. But this ring binder has been really great because I've been tracking a bunch of my tasks in here, as well as some of the high level things that I'm looking to do in my week and month. And I'm personally trying to get my life a little bit more organized by doing it this way, because I feel like if it's not written somewhere or it's not in my calendar and it's all in my mind, then I really don't remember a lot of things that I need to get done. And so having it as a list on my desk just keeps it very organized, and I can check it off when it's done, and it's just a really nice way to keep myself accountable, and also a nice way to feel accomplished at the end of the week when you see everything that's checked off. And so if you're also somebody like me and you're trying to get your day or your week more organized, I would look into getting some sort of lightweight planner like this, or even one that's not like a ring binder where you can just have one format for the whole journal. That's really useful as well. But I do like this style of ring binder where you can kind of customize the types of inserts that you put in your journal, and so it really works towards your system and your lifestyle. So right now this is one of the main ways where I track my life, and it's just put onto this little stand right here so I can see it whenever I'm working at my desk, and I can keep myself on track more consistently. Moving on to the journals that I have here. So these ones I don't use every single day. They're ones that I use occasionally, and to be honest, I've been really busy this year and haven't really been able to keep up with a daily journal like I did last year, but it is something that I really want to bring back into my life, and I'm trying to see if I can do it for the remainder of the year because I do really want to make use of my Hobonichi, and so that's something that I will try to be fitting into my life again. But starting off with the smallest one up here, which is my traveler's notebook. This one is in the passport size. I have a few inserts in here, like a blank one, a grid one, and a little pocket at the back here. And it's nice because you can also put a little charm at the front. I also have one here that is the traveler's notebook luggage tag. So I haven't used this one too much just because I do really want to reserve this for when I'm traveling, and I haven't gone on a trip in a while, and so this one hasn't seen much use recently, but I really like it because of the form factor. And usually when you're traveling, you don't really have a lot of space to carry a lot of things with you, and so I do like this traveler's notebook because it is small, but you do still get to journal when you're on the go and write about all your travels. And so this is nice for when you are somebody who is looking to travel and also journal at the same time. I also have the traveler's notebook in the standard size. I've showed this one a few times in previous videos, but this one I've also kept as a travel journal. And so I'll collect the different train tickets, a lot of plane flight tickets. I've also collected stamps in here from other travelers factories that I visited, some stamps that I got from some shrines in Japan, which are really nice. Looking back on this now, it's really fun to just remember where I got each stamp and kind of like the story behind it. And then this is a spread that I did from my trip to Japan, which is really nice. It includes all those ephemera that I picked up from, different types of packaging. And so every time I look back to this spread, I just always get a sense of happiness because of the good times I had when I was traveling there with friends and all the things that I saw and I did. And it just serves as a really nice page to look back on. And I really like the form factor of the traveler's notebook. This one is in the standard size, and so you just get a lot more space to work with compared to the smaller one. And so this is one that I've reserved for planning for trips, or when I get back from a trip and I want to make a little memory spread about it. This just has a lot more space, but also it's easier to do it at home versus taking this big notebook with me on the go. And so I will continue to use this for that purpose because I think this will be really fun to look back on when I do have it full of a bunch of memory spreads. And so this traveler's notebook has definitely seen a lot more use than this small one, which signals to me that maybe I am more of the type of journaler that likes doing it at home rather than on the go. Especially when it comes to scrapbooking, I think a lot of material and tools are needed for scrapbooking, and so it makes sense why I might gravitate towards using my bigger traveler's notebook more, because it is something that I can, be at home, sit down at my desk with, and actually have a whole sprawl of my scrapbooking materials with, versus having the small one on the go and not having all of my scrapbooking materials with me. It is harder to achieve something like that when you're on the go. And so I might actually change the focus of this small one to be something different. Maybe I just have this one dedicated to be a simple sketchbook where I only need this book and a pencil or a pen, rather than forcing it to be a scrapbooking book for when I'm on the go versus at home. And so that's just made me think about a better use for the small one over here. And then we have my Hobonichi weeks that I keep in this really nice trigging case. And so the weeks that I have in here is the one by Yumi Kitagishi that I got at the end of the year. This journal I've been using as a place to jot down all the things that I want to get done in the week, and also a high-level view of different events that I have, different tasks that I have to do, and also just a place to have a brain dump of all the different things that I'm thinking about so I don't forget them. And so I haven't been using the Hobonichi weeks consistently every week just because it is a bigger form factor than my Me Plus. I am learning that different systems provide different amounts of flexibility for me, and so I do like how the Me Plus is undated, because then I can not worry about skipping a week because each sheet is its own dedicated week. It's undated and I don't need to worry about, wasting that page, for example. Versus in the Hobonichi weeks, there's been many times that I've forgotten a week, and so then I feel like I'm just wasting the purchase of this week's because I'm not using it to its fullest potential. And so I think I'm learning as a journaler that I'm not consistent when it comes to daily journaling or even weekly planning. And that's totally fine because life can just get very busy one week over the next. And so I do really like the flexibility of something like a ring planner, or just something that doesn't have as much pressure to it when it comes to filling it out every week or every day. I think for me, I'm just learning that I'm somebody who, when I want to journal, it's nice to know that I can just pick it up and go. And then once I'm done, I can just forget about it for like a week and then pick it up again with no consequences of missing that week. I think when I am in that headspace, I do journal a bit better. My thoughts are a bit clearer versus doing something daily. It almost feels a bit forced, and journaling shouldn't feel forced. I've always mentioned before that journaling is very, very flexible. It should not be something that you feel restricted or confined by. And so if you do feel like you're not vibing with your type of journaling, there's always different types of styles out there that may suit you better. And so this just serves as a learning lesson for me to know when to switch things up. Going back to the Hobonichi weeks though, I do find that it's a very, very effective solution for a lot of people when it comes to weekly planning, because it does have this very structured way of filling out your weeks. And each page is identical, and so you have this column on the left side to jot down everything that you're doing for that week. And then on this right side, you have this blank grid paper where you can pretty much use it for anything freeform. You can have it as a habit tracker or a place to jot down some to-do lists. You can really combine two different types of journaling into one layout like this. Next is my Hobonichi Techo, which is a daily planner, and I have this one which also has the Yumi Kitagishi cover as well. But I will show you guys the one that I used last year just because it is more filled out and I did have more time to actually do and maintain a daily journal. This one I didn't end up finishing, but I did have a good stretch of time where I did it every single day. I'm actually pretty proud that I was able to keep it up for this long, but I had a lot of fun doing daily journaling in the Hobonichi Techo just because I really, really love the A6 format. I think A6 is my favorite size of paper to work with when it comes to journaling, and it's something that provides just enough space that I need to really go through all the thoughts, all the emotions, all of the recounting of the day. When I am daily journaling, it's easy to journal at home, but also take it with me in my bag and journal on the go. I really like the Hobonichi paper itself. It's really, really nice to work with, especially with my fountain pens. I would definitely do daily journaling again once I do have more time, just because I do really like working with the Hobonichi Techo, and I hope one day I can pick it back up again because it is one of my more favorite types of journaling. And also with this Hobonichi, it was a nice place to put a bunch of my pictures of things that I was doing at the time, and I really want to improve on the artistic side of journaling, and so I definitely want to pick this up again one day once I do have more time because it was really fun when I was doing it. So there we have the Hobonichi A6, and just to give you guys a size reference, so this is the A6. And this is the passport size, which is more of an A7, I believe. So it is quite a bit smaller. So you have a lot more room to work with when it comes to an A6. And then lastly, I have my A5 journal, which is this Hobonichi Cousin with this gorgeous Junji Ito cover that I got in my last stationery haul video. And so I haven't shown this journal since getting it, but it is the Stylogy A5 journal, which is an undated journal. And so for this one, you can see that the grids are fairly close, which I really like because I do like the size of the Hobonichi grid. And so Stylogy had this A5 version of their notebook, and I really like how this one is undated because I do like how there's no pressure to have to fill it out every day. It does fit more into my lifestyle right now where I don't have the time or capacity to do daily journaling. So that's why I feel a little bit less bad about not using this planner because it is undated. When I am skipping out on a few days or a couple weeks of planning, it does really make me guilty and it gets to me in that way. And I feel like the more and more that happens, then the less motivated I am to pick it back up. And I know that's a sucky feeling, but that's just what comes with journaling. I think in some phases of my life, I'm very diligent and on top of doing something every day or every week. But I think in this time of my life, I'm not feeling particularly drawn to journaling as much as I was before. And it's totally fine for it to be that way because I think sometimes I will need journaling more versus other times I might not need it as much. And so it's nice that I can acknowledge that and just change up my system to fit my needs better for that type of my life. But I think I will start using this much more when I do have more time because I would love to use this as a sketchbook or a place to paste a lot of my things into. But I had an idea of using one of these stamp punches to collect a different stamp of something every day. For example, like a food wrapper or like a magazine or like a type of packaging, and just laying out all the stamps across here for a given month and just seeing, you know, the variety that I have. I think that's a really fun idea, and I can't wait to use this once I do have more time and, you know, I'm in the right headspace to start using it. I think it'll be fun to explore what I can do with bigger form factor, and I think for me personally, it'll be a nice challenge once I'm up for it. And so that is the last journal that I currently have to show you guys. I hope it was helpful to show you guys the variety of the different sizes and types of journals, from ring binder to traveler's notebook style to Hobonichi Weeks, and then journal style with Hobonichi Techo and Hobonichi Cousin. And then also in terms of the different sizes of the paper from A7 to A6 and then A5. All the types of journaling that I talked about before is really flexible and you can really use it with any size of paper. It just really comes down to how much you want to write about a given thing. If you are somebody who really likes things that are concise and, you know, in bullet points, then I would recommend going for the smaller form factor with the A7 or even the A6. But I think if you're somebody who's really expressive, who likes using photos, stickers, things like that, then I would go towards the A6 and the A5 just because it does lend itself more to creative expression. You have a lot more space. You can really talk at length about anything. And so I'd recommend that type of journaling for those types of journals. So next we'll move on to some of the pens that I like using in my journals, and then finally we'll get on to some of my favorite journaling essentials. Out of my whole collection of pens, from fountain pens to ballpoint pens and gel pens, my favorite are definitely fountain pens just because I really love the way that they write. I really like how you can experiment with the different nib sizes and you can get different ink colors depending on the type of ink that you refill your pen with. I love all the aspects of fountain pens for all those reasons, and I have some of my favorite pens over here. On the top here is my Pilot Custom 823 in the fine size. It writes so smooth and never skips, and I like how much ink that it can have in the little reservoir over here. And then we have one of my most used pens in my collection, which is the Pilot Vanishing Point. And so I got it in the fine nib originally, but I did swap it out for an extra fine nib just because I wanted that extra amount of feedback when I was writing, and I did want my line to be a little bit more thin. And the extra fines of the vanishing points are very thin, and so I really like that aspect of this pen. And then we have one of my first pens, which is the Pilot Metropolitan. So I have this one in a fine nib, and it has this really nice intricate pattern on the middle. And I really love this pen. It writes so smooth. Even though it is one of the more cheaper, more entry-level pens, it just never fails me. It's very durable when I just toss it in my bag as well. And then we have two of the Twisby pens here. This one is in the cream color with the rose gold details. And then this one is the Cafe Bronze color with the bronze nib. This one is in the fine nib size, and this one is in the extra fine. And I love the Twisby Eco pens because of the capacity of ink that they can both carry, and it is just a very beautiful pen as well. I love writing with it, and it just lasts so long. So these are two of my trusty pens as well. To me, the experience of writing with a fountain pen is just so fun and enjoyable, and it's nice to learn how the different types of nibs produces different line weights, and especially working with different types of inks themselves. It's always fun to swap out to a different ink color once you feel like it, versus a ballpoint pen, you're most likely stuck with one type of ink color for the most part. And so I love how fountain pens give you the option to change ink color, line weight, boldness, the thickness and thinness of each line stroke, and it's always a different experience trying a new brand or a different nib manufacturer. And so yeah, I think fountain pens will be with me for my whole life, and as long as I'm journaling, I will continue to be using fountain pens. So these are some of the fountain pens that I like to use. I have a bunch of my fountain pens right here as well, but if you are interested in learning more about my whole fountain pen collection or about my fountain pen inks, then you can watch my videos here to learn about them more. But if you're not looking into getting into fountain pens, there are other ones that I would recommend by Uniball, by Zebra, Pilot, etc. So I have a couple here that I can show you. So here are some of the pens that I use on a day-to-day basis. And so this one is a multicolor pen that Hobonichi releases every year when they are selling their Hobonichi Techos or Hobonichi products. And this one is from 2024. But I also have ones from 2025 and 2026. And each year has a different color scheme. And so I have a couple here that I always have in my little stationery organizer on my desk because they are such smooth writers. I really like how they have 3 different ink colors because I use all 3 of these pretty regularly for some of my planning and some of my things for our shop. And so I really like these 2, and I use them pretty much every single day. And then when it comes to writing in my journal, sometimes when I want a specific color or a type of gel pen, then I will use these pens. And so this one here is the Uniball 1 pen. This one comes in a ton of different colors and it has a 0.38mm line weight. That's kind of equivalent to a fine nib for fountain pens, but I really like the Uniball line. I have it in this size, and I also have it in this chunkier size, also in the 0.38mm line weight, and they're just really nice writers. I love how cute they look as well. It's really nice to just pop this into my journaling pouch, and they come in so many different colors, and so I would highly recommend looking into Uniball because they make really solid products. And also Uniball are these gel pens, and so I have it in silver, gold, and white. I really like using the white one when it comes to drawing on dark paper. When you are drawing things, it's nice to add a little pop of highlight using the white gel pen, and so I like using these gel pens when I want to add a little detail or a little highlight to my drawings. Alright, so we finally reached the part of the video where I can share with you guys some of my favorite journaling essentials. So these tools aren't necessary to start journaling. Technically, you just need a journal and a pen to get started, but I do find that these things definitely enhance my experience of journaling and makes it a lot more fun. I also just love collecting stationery, and it's really fun to look at while I'm journaling, so there's that too. So starting off with my tool pouch that I usually carry alongside my journal. This is a tool pouch by Yuraliku that I've mentioned before in a couple past videos, and so we can open that up and take a look. So on the left here, I have a bunch of my pens that I usually carry, and then on the right side, I have a bunch of things. I usually have mainly the same things in here. So starting off with a pencil board. So I like carrying this Weeks pencil board because it is basically the same size as that little pocket over there. And so I like laying this underneath my paper when I do need a hard surface to write on. And then I have a bunch of my stencils in here as well. I really like carrying these because it just offers a really quick and easy way to draw a shape when I need it. And then I have my Alvin cutting mat. It is in this really nice convenient size, and so it's really easy to bring along with me. And of course I have stickers with me everywhere I go, and these are all ones from our store. So I have a bunch of our older designs here, but we also have a lot more that I usually swap in and out of from this little tool pouch. These are some of our newer designs, and these are just really nice to bring on the go as well because they are quite small. This tool pouch pretty much comes with me everywhere I go because it does contain all of the essentials that I need to do a very basic type of journaling. There isn't a lot that you absolutely need when it comes to journaling, but when I do want to have a little bit more fun or be more expressive when I am making a spread, then that's where all of the tools that I'm about to show you comes in handy. And so in this box are a lot of things that I like to take out when I am looking to have a little bit more fun with my journaling, whether that be scrapbooking or playing around with different shapes, different colors, different textures. And so starting off with these two dispensers on the side, which I've shown many times in my videos. So these are my washi tape dispensers, and they currently hold two different sizes of my washi tapes. These are my thin ones, about 5 millimeters in width, and then this one, which is the standard size washi tapes, up to about, I think, 1 to 1.5 centimeters. I do really like using washi tape when it comes to making a more decorative or expressive spread, because it does add a lot of color, a lot of pattern to a page, and it does add some maybe contextual visual elements to a page. So like if I'm talking about, you know, going outside, looking at flowers, then I can use this washi tape or this one of the forest, and it just adds a nice, you know, visual to a memory that I'm writing about. And so if you are a journaler that really likes visual elements, then I would highly recommend looking into washi tape, just because it is a very easy way to add something artistic to a page. But when I am on the go and I'm able to take a couple of washi tapes with me, then I usually bring this washi tape cutter with me as well, because I can just take one of these washi tapes off and then just attach it like this. And then once I do want a piece of washi tape, I can just peel it off and then use this serrated edge of the cutter to rip it off there and then use it in my spread. This one is by Kokuyo, and they come in a bunch of different colors as well. They're really nice and small and can fit into any bags. Another thing that I like adding to my spreads that adds some texture to my pages are these sticky memo papers. And I have two sets of designs here by Swatelier Design. And so I like using really simple memo paper with my spreads, because oftentimes I don't want it to be the center focus of my spread. I usually like it to be, you know, like a backing or a little background color to a little quote or a little area that I want to highlight, but not have it stand out super loudly. And so I like how these are pretty subdued, and I can place them on my spread, you know, write a little thing on top, and then it adds a little bit of visual interest to a certain area of my spread. I really like collecting stamps as well, and I think they're a really fun thing to add to journaling once you are more comfortable with using stickers and washi tape and all those sorts of things. And stamps are really nice because they come in so many different designs, there's so many different sizes, types of stamps. So these ones are rubber stamps, and they each have these little designs on them. And so it does require you to also carry an ink pad at the same time. And so it's not super easy to have these be readily available to use that often, just because it does require a little bit more setup to get these ready to use. But they are super fun to use, and they add a nice element of design to the page as well. If you're looking to add some emotion or iconography onto a page, then stamps really add a nice way to quickly, you know, put a little symbol. And so stamps just offer a nice way of also adding some, you know, visual expression of what you're talking about, but different than washi tape in the sense that that's more decorative, and stamps are a little bit more expressive or directly talking about something. And so I like how these offer, you know, a different type of expression when I'm looking for it. I have a few more stamps here as well that I want to show you guys. And so this one is a date stamp. You know, when I was talking earlier about how I don't really think I like dated journals or planners, I think this is nice because if I'm leaning towards using more undated pages or just like blank pages themselves, then I can easily have a way to date it myself, and I just have to rotate these things to get to the date that I want. And it's really easy to just input a date myself that way. And then we have these two stamps here by Midori, and these work a little differently in that when you stamp it like this, it'll stamp whatever design is at the bottom. And so you can just rotate the stamp here to get to the design that you want, and then it will change the one that's at the bottom. And these are nice because they come with a little ink pad that you insert in here. These add another way of adding some visual interest to your page. And so I'd recommend getting these style of stamps if you're into not having to carry a separate ink pad with these. And then the next category I have here are punches. And so these are things that take kind of clippings out of paper or little ephemera that you have. And so I have this rectangular stamp punch, but I also have one that's more square. But the way it works is that you can simply just unlock it from the bottom here, and then it activates the stamp. And then all you need to do is put a piece of paper in here, and then it stamps out that shape out of the bottom like that. And so these are really nice because you can find a lot of different designs. You can find like just a simple square or a circle, an oval, a heart, a star, etc. And then it will punch whatever shape out of that paper. I also have a collection of these stamps in all of these different styles as well, because they're really nice to bring out when I'm scrapbooking. And for example, if I'm talking about, camping, then I can make a bunch of little stamps out of this evergreen tree, and then I can place them throughout my spread. And I think it's just a nice way to add some texture, some visual interest. It's really cute, and they're really fun to work with as well when you are stamping out of different types of paper. If you're looking to add more scrapbooking elements to your journaling, then I would recommend looking into stamps. I also have this stamp here that cuts rounded corners. But if I'm looking to add this memo paper, but I want to round this corner to make it a little bit more soft, then I could just take out this little corner cutter and make the corners round, which is super simple. And so I think cutouts have a lot of power to adding, elements to storytelling in your spread. And so I always have a lot of fun when I'm using these. And then I have two items here that I would consider essentials for my journaling because I use them pretty much all the time when I'm journaling. And this first one is my glue tape. This one is by Scotch. And it says permanent, but it's not super permanent. But essentially what it does is it works just like a whiteout like this one. And you lay it on the thing that you're gluing, just like you would with whiteout. And I usually put it on a little bit on all four corners. This is what I use to post my photos into my journal. And so whenever I'm printing photos and I want to paste them into my journal, I would use this. Or if I'm scrapbooking, then I would use this to paste all of my ephemera into my journal. When I was showing you guys the little scrapbook page that I made for my trip to Japan, I used this glue tape pretty much the whole time to paste all of these things in here. And so glue tape is very useful, and it's a nice way to easily attach something into your journal. It's just less messy, it's nice to use, it's easy to carry around, and so I would consider this definitely an essential for my journaling. And then secondly, I have this whiteout, which is definitely essential because I'm always making mistakes when I'm writing. And so this one is by Tombow. It's their Mono Air 5 model. I really like using this one. I like how easy it is to apply and that it has this little lid here that covers the tape when I'm not using it. And I like how it's very slim compared to some whiteouts that are maybe about this size. And so it's very easy to carry in my journaling pouch, and I bring it with me everywhere I go because I'm always needing whiteout. And then the last thing I have here are a bunch of these clips. And I like using clips when I'm journaling because oftentimes when I'm writing on a journal that doesn't necessarily lie completely flat, then I will need a clip to hold that paper down so it's easier for me to journal. And so I have a bunch of clips here. These four are by Penco, and then I have two brass clips here by Traveler's Company, and then I also have a bunch of their bookmarkers up here. But these Penco clips are really nice because they come in a variety of colors. They're really cute. They do the job really well. They have a tooth on them that helps keep it on the paper really securely, but not enough to dent the paper itself. I have a really big collection of Penco clips. These are just four of them. So I have this green one, this brown one, this really special one that's glow in the dark. I have this one, which is actually a collaboration between Penco and Hobonichi. This is part of their Hobonichi Tools and Toys box that I unboxed last year that I made a video about. But it's a super cute one and one of my favorites because it has a pair of eyes here and it says look. And because it's usually clipped on the top of your journal, then it's usually looking at your journal entry or your journal spread. And I think it's super cute that they designed it this way. I like how minimal it is as well. And then I have two of these brass clips by Traveler's Company. This one is their classic design, and then this one it says have a nice trip. These ones are really nice. They have a bit of weight to them compared to the Penco ones. These are definitely maybe 2 times as heavy as one Penco clip, and so these really do weigh down your pages in a good way. And then these index cards are nice to just add a little bookmarker, maybe for a particular section of your journal, and they have these cute little icons on the top as well. And so these have been a really fun thing to add, but also basically an essential to my journaling as well. And so these are all of the essentials that I had to share with you guys today, but I did have a couple non-essentials that I want to share with you guys if you're looking for additional ways to add a little bit more interest to your journals, or things that you can maybe splurge a little bit more on to experiment with different types of things that you can put with your journal. And so I have a couple of boxes here that I use to store the ephemera that I collect on my trips. I think they're really useful for journaling because it really aids to adding a visual element to your journaling, especially to junk journaling and scrapbooking. And so I'll go through both of these boxes to give you guys some inspiration for, how you can get started with collecting ephemera, where you can start looking, and then where you can store it. These are quite messy because they have basically no organization to them. It's basically just a box that I use to put a bunch of little pieces of papers, receipts, packaging, things like that. And so when I open it, I have on the lid here, I stuck a bunch of the little price stickers that I found, you know, little pieces of the packaging, some of the tape that's used to close plastic bags or the paper bags that the things come in. And then I have a bunch of these random like coffee coaster, this little packaging, business cards, things like that, flight tickets, things from those little gachapon machines, those little tags that come with the little toy, and then a bunch of packaging. Basically, whenever I see a really cool piece of packaging or even the texture of packaging that intrigues me, then I will usually keep it. A lot of my friends are always like questioning why I'm keeping these little pieces of garbage, but it's really nice because like whenever I'm looking for something interesting to use, like for example, this little train charm that I got from the Traveler's Factory, it has this really cool texture to this like craft paper, and I also like this imagery of this train, and so if I ever need a little image of a train, then I can just use it from this packaging, and I think it's nice. And then I have a bunch of like memo paper. This memo paper I picked up from this hotel I was staying at. This is really cute. It has like this little matcha illustration. I kept this little saltine cracker packaging that I got from when I was traveling in the Philippines, and it has this little Skyflakes logo, which is really cute and like kind of retro, so I really like that. I even have a little mustard packet from when I visited the Nintendo Museum in Kyoto. This is definitely not good anymore, but I just thought the little, you know, design of the mustard package was cool, and so I kept a couple of those. So it's definitely kind of like a weird hobby to collect these things, but I think it's just so fun to collect ephemera. I think it's so special, even though it is like a scrap of paper that, you know, is meant to be thrown away. I think it's just so cool, and like a lot of thought has gone into packaging, and I feel like it's underappreciated a lot of times. I like collecting it all because I want to appreciate it in a different way, and that way being scrapbooking. I think it's just a nice way to give packaging a second life. And so if you are thinking about scrapbooking, this is basically what it will look like. It's just collecting a lot of ephemera as you go through your day. And so the spirit of scrapbooking is really, really fun in that regard, and it makes you really think outside the box. And then I have this little Snoopy box that I've owned for a long time. And this one has a bunch of my fancier paper in it. And so a bunch of these papers I got from a kind of like a surprise bag of leftover scraps from the stationery store here in Toronto. And so there are a lot of these pretty papers that I've collected, like this one here. This one's probably like a wrapping paper. And then they just have a bunch of, you know, random scraps of it. And so they make this little surprise bag of little special papers. This is really cool, like tissue paper flower that was part of a packaging, a bunch of cool little paper like this. And so I like keeping this box and then taking it out whenever I need something, you know, more elegant to use. And I like how each of them has a different pattern on it, and it can be used in a different way, and it's just really cool to look at. And so this box isn't necessarily ephemera, they're just types of paper that I can use to make a page a little bit more special. And it's actually really cool because I can use, you know, one of the stamps that I have here, like this Sakura one, and I can easily just take a clipping out of it like this and press them down. And then I have a paper punch out of this pattern, which is super cool. And so I really like using special paper for that. So these are the first things that I would consider not essential to journalers, but I do find that they add so much value to your journaling. I don't take these out too often, but whenever I do, I have so much fun with them. I love going through all the little pieces of things that I've collected over the years. And I think it's just a really nice way to make journaling a little bit more interesting, especially if you feel like it's gotten a bit more stagnant for you. And I feel like this makes it a lot more fun and refreshing. The next two things that I have here are two different types of printers, but this one I have a little Smisky figure on it, but this is a little thermal printer by a brand called Full Memo, and this one is a really mini size and it prints little sheets of paper like this. And on the back is adhesive. And so the way this works is you basically have this image on your phone that you can import into their app, and basically it will print out a little black and white image of that using thermal technology, so it doesn't use any ink. And so this is really convenient for journaling because I can easily just put this into my bag, and then whenever I am thinking about printing out a photo, I can just take this out and print it out really easily and paste it into my journal. And so this one by Full Memo is really nice. It's compact, it takes about 30 seconds to print out a photo, and it's really nice and crisp quality. And so it's a really nice, convenient way to print stuff out without needing ink. And then we have this case here that contains my Canon Ivy printer. So this one is the original model, the Canon Ivy 1. So this printer is really unique in that it also produces prints by not using any ink. It instead also uses heat, which is what the full memo printer uses as well. And it activates the little particles in the paper, and that's what makes the image appear, and it also appears in color. And so this one's really nice when I want to print full color images. And the paper is very small as well. When I'm journaling, I usually print out one photo and then paste it into my journal, or I'll lay out two photos side by side in the app, and then it'll print, and then I'll cut it down the middle and then paste two separate photos into my journal. And so this is really nice to bring with me whenever I'm thinking about printing photos on the go. And it's very, very slim and portable. I usually carry it in this case. And the quality of the photo isn't too bad. When I'm at home, I'm usually using my desktop Canon printer to print out my photos, but this is a really nice way to print photos on the go. And so it's a really easy product to work with. These are definitely both not essentials to journaling because journaling doesn't necessarily need to have photos, but if you are looking for something to print out your photos, a simple desktop printer is sufficient enough. You don't really need to go out and buy something special for these, unless you are looking for something that's a little bit more portable, something that you can easily bring with you. And because these both don't use ink, it's even easier to use these when you're on the go, so you don't have to worry about refilling any ink. You don't really have to worry about any of that. All you need to do is buy the paper for these printers and you're good to go. So that's all I had to share with you guys today. I hope it was inspirational to get you started in the hobby of journaling. So much has changed for me when it comes to journaling since I first started doing it, and it's really fun to adapt to different types of journaling as my life changes. In making this video, it's also reminded myself to give more love to my journals as well. There's so much cool and fun stationery out there to experiment with, and I'm wondering what you all consider to be your journaling essentials. Leave a comment down below. As always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys in our next one. Bye!